Good evening, guys. It is September the 22nd, 2025. It is Maniac Monday. Um, well, I guess, I was going to do several individual recordings for this stuff, but I just figured I haven't done a Being Real with Rebi in several days, so we're just going to throw it all into one. I hope that you have had a good weekend and got to do all the things that you wanted to do and ate lots of food, got lots of rest, had family time, whatever you do that makes you feel good and happy. Um, Gosh, I really don't know where to start. I guess first I need to start by saying this. If you would, please go ahead and hit that like button for our video. If you're not a subscribe to our channel, please hit that subscribe button. We would love to have you in our community. And don't forget that you can share it. And please comment. We love to have a conversation in the comments. Um, wow. I've got so much, so much. We had stuff going on with KarenRead today, and I'm going to start out with that because I honestly have to say I've never been so happy to go back to the upside down inside world of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as I was today. You know, you had a woman who's been found innocent of taking the life of her boyfriend, now being sued by his parents for wrongful death, along with the two bars that they attended the night of for apparently overserving KarenRead, which resulted, in their minds, to the death of Officer John O'Keefe. However, KarenRead's defense team had a little surprise. I'm talking about this was not a grab your popcorn, we're fixing to have a show. This was you need to get the big refillable bucket of popcorn because you would go through the first thing of the little popcorn within the first 10 minutes of this trial. So you better have had the refillable bucket of popcorn because it was absolutely nuts. Um, wow. So, of course we start out and the plaintiffs, the O'Keefes, their attorney is going into this believing that this is the O'Keefes as the plaintiffs and the defendants being KarenRead and the Waterfall Bar and C.F. McCarthy's. However, they very quickly found out that that KarenRead's defense team, Damon Siligson, it's hard for me to say his name. He's from South Africa, and Charles Waters, and yes, the one, the only, Alan Jackson, AJ. He was there. When it was their turn to talk, they announced that they did intend to put on affirmative claims and that there would be actually more defendants in this case. Those defendants being the Massachusetts State Police, Lieutenant Brian Tully, Yuri Buchanan, and Michael Proctor, along with also the Canton Police Department and dun, da, 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 Brian and Nicole Albert, Jen and Matthew McCabe, and Higgy himself, Brian Higgins. The basically the charges that that are not charges, but um, as far as the Massachusetts State Police, that would be they're going to have, of course, their own attorney, but it's Brian Tully personally, Yuri Buchanan personally, and Michael Proctor personally, along with the Alberts, the McCabe's, and Brian Higgins. And these are all to do with the, basically her civil rights, um, conspiracy. to violate her civil rights. Um, then we've got the Canton Police Department with negligence in training and retention of troopers, failure to secure the Sally Port. Basically, what KarenRead's attorneys are trying to say is this: hey, O'Keefe's attorney, you know that you should have included all of these defendants in your claim, as well as our defendant, because, now you're good. Basically, the accused attorney is thinking he's just going into this, and he's a, personal injury attorney, so he does not get paid unless the O'Keefes win this case. Now, so he's thinking, oh, we're going, us against these three. Okay. And also understand that KarenRead, her attorneys, she's not having to pay for. Now, we don't know about AJ because, he came in on the tail end of it. However, her other two attorneys, Mr. Waters and Silligson, they are attorneys for her car insurance, provided through her car insurance company, because supposedly, the O'Keefes still believe that she hit him with her vehicle. So she does not, she has no money going out to them. She does not have to pay for them. It's covered when she makes those premium payments. When she had the vehicle, when she was making those premium payments, it ensured the fact that she would be covered, for stuff like this. And of course, you have the Waterfall and CF McCarthy's. They're corporations. They're going to have attorneys. But now, all of these people, the Massachusetts State Police, they'll have representation, as well as Canton Police Department. But Tully, Buchanan, Proctor, Higgins, the McCabe's, and the Alberts, they now, all of them, are going to have to go out and find attorneys. In addition to that, the attorney for the O'Keefes, he went into this, like I said, thinking that it was just going to be, KarenRead and the two bars. Okay, we're going to, go through this trial, won't take too much time. If I win, great. I get them some money, I'll get paid. If something happens and I don't, maybe we can make a settlement prior to, or if I don't, okay, not a lot of time. Excuse me. But now you've added all of these other people. Well, Karen's, team has. They have also asked that the judge consider, and here's the thing, this is state court. So her attorneys have asked that all of these people be included in this lawsuit because KarenRead is suing them for the civil rights violations and the conspiracy to commit, civil rights violations and all that. And it's all using the same evidence. All the discovery that everybody's going to get for everything. It's going to be this. It's going to be everything from her criminal trial, right? In addition to, of course, in a civil trial, you get to depose people. So every single one of these people will be deposed. And they have to answer questions. They can't say, I'm not going to answer that. They have to answer questions. So, tentatively, he said that with all this going on right here, it's going to be the summer of 2027 before this will even be ready to go to trial. Now, he did tell them, now, if you want to go to trial in 2026, we can, but basically the judge was kind of saying, I wouldn't advise it though. But yeah, so her attorneys have asked that this judge include the defendants that she wants to sue because we're looking at all the same information. Basically, they put it to the judge, hey, we would save a lot of time because we're going to be using all the same evidence if we just had all the people in one trial. Instead of us having to, because you could potentially, there's two routes it could go. He could say, yes, we'll all have it here. Or the federal court could say, no, we're going to have, and that's what KarenRead's attorney does not want to happen. KarenRead's attorney does not want this case to go into the federal courts. You have much stricter timelines, regulations. I mean, it's a different ballgame. So for KarenRead's attorney, you're going to want to keep this in state court. And he stated that today in the hearing. But, this judge could say, okay, yeah, we'll bring all these in. However, though, the federal court could say, no, we're not going to do it that way. We'll bring your case up to federal court. Now, we won't know that for a while. We do have a status hearing that is going to be in Plymouth, and it's going to be on the 21st of November. The judge did give them the opportunity to have it via Zoom, and the O'Keefe's attorney said, no, we'd rather be in person. So basically, right before Thanksgiving, everybody has to fly to Plymouth and have this status hearing. And then, but yeah, to figure out what that's going to be. Now, he also did say he did not rule, of course, on the motion to dismiss yet. There was a lot of things in there that, just weren't, that were backwards, that weren't true. It was your typical, and he kind of told on himself, it was your typical attorney getting up, putting on the show. Only this one knew that he was a high profile case, and he knew that the cameras were there, and he actually mentioned the cameras. He also mentioned Turtle Boy. So yeah, it was it was quite the thing. Um, you know, they're gonna need a bigger courtroom, is what they're gonna need. One question that flew into my mind immediately when I heard this was, I wonder if when the O'Keefes get home, if the McCabe's and the Alberts are going to be sitting on their front porch going, look, y'all got to drop this case, please, because we can't do this. Because, they're the ones that were in that house. They were in the home at 34 Fairview. And all of them were either police adjacent, or personally knew, the victim. So all of this, it can be, combined. And it needs to be. And what I'm getting from the defense is that their defense is to pursue justice for John O'Keefe. Just like KarenRead said she was going to do on the front steps of that courthouse the day that she was acquitted. And she was not playing. So we are going to have round three, ding, 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 round three. So I just, I kind of feel that the judge did at the end of the hearing, he put on a very good, basically explaining with the addition of all of these other defendants, he's talked about how he's had personal, cases that have drawn out for years, and they usually do. But he was talking about 10 to 20 years. And so you have to look at, number one, the accused attorney not knowing that exactly what he was going to be up against when he took the case. Problem, and that's his fault, because he filed this wrongful death suit after her first trial, which was a hung jury. So that's why would you do that? Knowing that she's going to have another trial. Why would you do that? So now you have to, he's going to have to get over that hump, which of course, it's a lot, it's a lot lower standard, but still you have to, they want this case in front of a jury. And so you got to get over the fact that, and okay, yeah, I understand it happened in O.J. Simpson. He was found not guilty in criminal court, went to civil court, was found guilty. But he wasn't, it wasn't after two trials. He had one, you know. This was a case that has been taken up. I mean, the first trial, if you're going to file a wrongful death suit, why would you file it knowing that another trial was coming? Not knowing what evidence they were going to provide, because I guarantee you, all this stuff now is going to come into to this, civil trial, and it's going to be crazy. Um, so I I was happy, and then when they dropped this surprise, I was like, oh my goodness. And I was thinking, I wonder if, I know that the Alberts and the McCabe's are watching this. So what are they thinking? And they got to be thinking, oh, but like, let me get back to the judge though. At the end, I mean, he was talking about how long the trial could take and how much money this is going to cost. And I kind of feel like he also brought up the subject of, mediation, trying to make a settlement, which we all know that KarenRead is not going to settle this case. She fought for her life and won. She's not going to settle. I mean, because at this point, for her to settle would be admitting guilt. And, you know, and a lot of things, like I said, her attorney he put on a bunch of babble for his little thing. But I feel that maybe was for the O'Keefes a little bit too, because they've got to understand that now, maybe had their attorney waited until after the second trial, he could have better counseled them as far as actually going forward with the wrongful death suit, with all of the information that has come out with the second trial. But he didn't. So I kind of feel like the judge was kind of, in a way, talking to the O'Keefes, saying, y'all might want to, if we can't settle this, y'all might want to kind of think about this. But they may be just as bound and determined to get her in court as she is to, prove her innocence once again. I mean, it's just a bad situation. And unfortunately, there are people who know exactly what happened to him, and that's why they're now going to end up being deposed. And KarenRead is suing them for conspiracy to the violation of her civil rights, as she should. So this is gonna be, it's gonna be a goodie. It's gonna be a goodie. I'm ready. Let's see. We'll move on from that one. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit right now about the Resilient Jenkins. Now, a few things have come out over the past few weeks. One of the things that has come out was that someone pulled the divorce paperwork for Stephanie Thompson. Because, Stephanie Thompson is not married to Jenkins. She is not Stephanie Jenkins. She is Stephanie Thompson. Her husband is in prison on SO charges of family members, by the way. Well, funny thing was found out that it was actually him that filed for divorce from her. Now, she has addressed this before and has said that the whole reason that she couldn't sign those papers was because it was going to cost her $12,000 to do. Okay, no. I myself checked on this. To file an uncontested divorce in the state of Oregon, it is $301, which that's what this would be. Okay, yeah, so what? He's already filed divorce papers. She didn't sign those. So they're not divorced. They're not filed. There's no legal filing on it. So that means that he's in prison now. So it would very much be an uncontested divorce because he's in there for SO charges against family members. So there's no way that any judge is going to consider giving him any type of custody should he get out, or visitation or anything like that. It would cost her $301 to file an uncontested divorce. $301. Why has she not done that? I'd like to know. Is she getting, because prisoners, when they are in prison, they do have jobs. Is she getting some type of compensation through his work? Which I know it's not much. But one thing that I did find out was that when a prisoner does get divorced while they're incarcerated, their child support amount is usually set at $10 a month. So, if she's getting a larger amount from him being married to him than she would being divorced from him, that's probably the whole reason behind it. I mean, I don't know, but just my thinking. But I do know that no, it wouldn't cost her no $12,000, $301 to file an uncontested divorce. Something else. We have her, there's the issue with the baby and the eyes and all that, which, yes, that does need to be looked at by a physician. It's called strabismus. It is where one of the ligaments that helps move the eyeball when you're looking, it keeps that eyeball from looking over too far. It stretches that ligament. So that ligament has stretched. Now, if you don't get that fixed, that ligament will never go back, and it will cause blindness in that eye. Now, if you catch it, at a young enough age, they usually can correct it with an eye patch. Even if they can't correct it with an eye patch, it's an outpatient surgery, and they just go in and they tighten up the ligament, and the child still has to wear eye patch after that. But it's an easily correctable problem. But the problem is it has to be looked at and it has to be corrected. Okay, so Creepy truck just drove down the road, and he's being my guard dog. But that's the whole problem, is that she never takes these kids to the doctor, right? So we have that. You know, Now, speaking of the baby, she has made this wonderful presentation of this sandwich bed, which it is. I looked it up on Amazon. It's $100. However, what it is a travel bed. Okay, this is a bed that you would use if you were like, say you were having a family picnic or something, and you had a tent set up, something that you could put down on the ground for the baby to nap in. Okay, this is not a permanent bed. We all know, because we see it every day, because she puts her entire life on the internet. She has on the floor. She stores knives, forks, all kinds of cleaning supplies, her bleach and her pine saws, and anything else that they use in that apartment that could be detrimental to anyone, much less a child if ingested. Or, hey, she may wake up in the middle of the night and little Momo might stab her in the eyeball with a knife. Who knows? But the problem with this, and it's a sandwich bed, okay? It literally, when you fold it up, it looks like a sandwich. And oh, she thought it was so cute. And she made the comment, I know what's best for my family. Really? You do? So what's best for your little toddler? She's not even a toddler yet. She's hadn't even started crawling, I don't think. Or maybe is just starting to crawl. So your idea, what's best for her, is for her to be on the floor, so that in the middle of the night, if she wakes up, she doesn't even have to stand up. She can simply roll over the side of it onto the floor, and then she can crawl wherever she wants to in your apartment. And she can get into the pine saw, she can get into the bleach, she can get the knives, forks, she can beat you in the head with a spoon, whatever she wants to do. That's what's best, right? Yeah. Okay, Stephanie, whatever. Then, okay, then we have what's the latest information of, we've had people coming forward and pretty much showing some pretty good receipts that they have offered her a 3-bedroom house with a fenced in backyard for a $500 deposit, $600 a month in rent, no credit check, no landlord check. And this person said that the only communication she received back from Stephanie was no thank you. Now, how many times have we heard her when she's talking about, oh, we just can't find housing? We want a 3-bedroom house and we want a fence. Okay, that's exactly what this woman offered her. And didn't even say, oh, I want first and last month's rent. She just wanted $500 deposit for the security deposit, $600 a month for the first year, and then after the first year, $900 a month. Do you know that makes that? And she said no, thank you. Okay. Do you know how many single mothers in my area, had they been offered that offer, would have been moved in yesterday? So many, so many. Even if the lady had said, we'll start it out at $900, same thing. This woman is purposely keeping her children in a shelter room because right now that's what's getting her clicks and views, because people are always see. I never ever ever go to her page and click and view anything. I make sure that I watch it all through other people's channels because I refuse to give her one click or one view. But it's clear that she does not care that she's doing this to the detriment of her children's emotional health, their psychological health, their physical health. It's ridiculous. And that's why I want to urge you, like I've been doing for months now, please, if you are in the Portland, Oregon area, we can see it works, okay? CPS has been going out there. Keep sending those reports in because these kids needs to be saved. There are people, and the whole reason that lady offered her that home for such a reduced amount, her main reason was because she wanted to help those kids get out of that shelter room. No, Stephanie, no thank you. That was Stephanie's answer. So please, please continue what you're doing. Let's keep CPS going out there because this is ridiculous. These children are being neglected, and they're being neglected not because the parents they literally just don't have any options. That's not it. You have to overlook that. That's Snowbird. I had to close my bedroom door to do my recording, and she's on the other side of it. So I'm sorry. Hold on. I'll be done in a minute. But she kills me. It sounds like she's going, mama, mama. But anyway, and so she's doing this purposely. She's been offered good housing. She's been offered jobs. She refuses to take. This is purposeful neglect. And then you're going to get on and make this big presentation of the baby sandwich bed. Honestly, yeah, it's a dog bed. It's a dog bed. What it's meant for, like I said, you go to the beach, that's the baby's little thing. When you take your baby to the beach, you get up under one of them big umbrellas, you open that thing up, and that's what the baby lays in. That's what that's for. It's not for, it's not for long-term use at all. And it's not safe for this situation at all, given the fact that the kid everything that the kid's not supposed to be able to get into is on the floor where she'll be. And it's $100. This bed was $100. Now, pack and plays, which would be the alternative to that, they are just as easily, all you have to do, literally, I've got 4 kids, and I am a pack and pay packer upper pro. It takes me less than 5 seconds to pack up a pack and play. Okay, so which has, high, it's completely surrounded. She would have to be much bigger to be able to crawl out of it. It'd be hard for her to crawl out of it. She'd have to have stuff to stand on, but this is Stephanie. There's no telling what she might put in bed with her. But still, and those pack and plays, brand new, were less expensive than this sandwich bed. It's like she's doing things purposely at the expense of her children's safety to get clicks and views. So please, yes, if you are in the Portland, Oregon area, please continue to ride CPS's butt about it, because I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes you have to ride CPS's butt. And that's just a fact. And I'm not saying that because I think it. I'm saying that because I know it. Next thing. Okay, now let's shift a little bit to Jack and Lily Sullivan. Now, there was the BBC did a interview with Mr. Martel, and I have never, every question that reporter asked him, he deflected it back to himself, and how he deflected it to back to himself as far as all the stuff that he's done to try to help, to try to find, to try to do this, try to do that. So grateful they're finally bringing the cadaver dogs. Oh, it took them a long time to get them out here. I guess we don't have that many. Blah blah blah. Then if it wasn't that, he would deflect it to, well, the R is it the R yeah, the RCMP. They're working as hard as they can. They're working so hard, so hard, so hard. They've been looking here, like 70,000 photos from a drone, all this stuff. And she's asking him questions, trying to get him to give just one human answer. Like for instance, she was asking, he said basically, she asked him how he felt about the cadaver dogs coming out. His answer was that he was pretty happy. It took a long time to get the dogs out. Again, it's been like 3 months, so it must be pretty hard to get them. He said, I hope they bring more than one dog. And she said, well, what do you expect to come? What do you hope comes out of this? His answer was that he hoped that the social media accusations and attention would slow down and all that such. Not, well, I hope that we can find Jack and Lily. Um, Now, the big kicker, she asked him a question about did he think that they would find anything out there? And he said no, that he was 100% sure that they would not find anything. Well, exactly how is that? Because the only way that you would be 100% sure is if you knew where those kids are. Otherwise, you'd have to say, well, you would have some answers say, well, they've already looked this area over quite well, but you never know. I mean, there's the possibility that they still could find them. I mean, like I said, it was deflection after deflection. Again, talking about, talked about, well, it's the those dogs are going to have real hard. It's going to be real hard work for them because it's such sick visitation out there, and talking about ruling things out. And again, he deflected back to the RCMP again. Um, and she asked him, are you preparing? What are you preparing for if they do find something? Or are you preparing for anything if they do find something? His answer was no, because I did not do it. I didn't do anything. And Malaya didn't do anything. Well, it doesn't mean that you did do something. It doesn't mean, like I said, again, she's trying to get a human answer. Like, are you prepared to deal with the heartbreak he immediately goes, no, I'm not preparing for nothing because I know we didn't do it. Um, and just the look on his face sometimes just killed me. I mean, neither one of them have been, you really can't take anything either one of them, says at anything because, first both of them are asleep, then one of them was asleep, then the other one was asleep, and the other one's like, no, I wasn't asleep, she was asleep. I mean, their stories keep changing. So how do you even know anything? I mean, basically. Oh, we talked about the polygraph, you know, talked about the polygraph, and she said, what were you hoping would come from the polygraph? Well, I was hoping that all this would end because, I mean, I passed the polygraph. Well, no, sir. I mean, polygraphs are not admissible in court because they're junk science. Many, many, many innocent people have failed polygraphs, and many, many, many guilty people have passed polygraphs. So, no, that's not going to happen. Um, and then again, was asking again, so you don't think that they're going to find anything? And he said, she was asking about, Jack and Lily having walked into the forest, or out into the woods. And he said, well, they would have found them. If they had just walked into the forest, they would have found them. But they did find a beaver and a coyote. His words. They found a beaver and a coyote. So, and then again, of course, went right back to himself about how he's meeting with the RCMP at least 3 times a week. Sometimes they're not available to do face-to-face meetings, so he does it either on a telephone call or text messages, but at least 3 times a week this is happening. And something else that I picked up on, because they started talking about how school was about to start back, and he's like, oh yeah, I see school buses right by here all the time, and I see all these little kids. And then he said they had friends, they had teachers. The very next question that she asked him was, do you think that they are alive? Oh yes, well I hope they are. Well, the way that you just talked about them in the previous question, you said they had friends, they had teachers. Speaking of them in the past tense. And then, what do you think? Do you hope that they'll find them alive? Oh, yes, I hope that they do find them alive. So, the only thing that uh, the only thing that he did right in this interview, and I say it's right, um, but I think that the only reason that he did it is probably because he's been watching a lot of the people who have been, analyzing his interviews. He did put out, a call to action, as far as please, if you know anything, please, call the tip line, contact the RCMP, do this, do that. He put out that, call to action. Please, if you know anything, please, let us know. But I think seriously that he only did that because, like I said, I think he's been watching all the videos of everybody analyzing his, um, interviews he's been doing. So, yeah, and I'm telling you, he was on there just, you know, the look on his face, he looking down and has that little sly look on his face and the little half grin. Like he loves being on TV. He just loves it. He's eating it up. But 100%, I know. Well, no, if you that pretty much means if you 100% know that they're not out there, that also means that you 100% know where they are, right? Because nobody can say, how could you say that? So anyway, just more. And we're coming up on 5 months. 5 months these children being gone. So, like I said, with the Emmanuel Harrow case, this case, recently, I guess it was Saturday, we had a mom who claims that she came home at 10 a.m. in the morning in San Antonio, Texas, that she took her two children, ages 3 and 6. The 6-year-old was autistic. She took them inside. And she said at some point during the day that they, on their own, went back out into the car, got into the car, buckled themselves back into their seatbelts, and she found them there at 3 p.m. They were not able to be revived. She's been charged with 2 counts of injury to a child. However, I have been hearing that I think there's going to be some more announcements within the next couple of days about that, because I've been hearing kind of through the grapevine that there's the possibility that those children may have been harmed, and this is allegedly, may have been harmed prior to being placed in the hot car. So we will see if that comes to fruition. Again, you know, just absolutely, where's the disconnect with people these days? Okay. Um, Now, tonight, I'm a very big proponent of mental health. We need to get our mental health system straightened out. It is one of our largest problems in the United States. It is by far the hardest thing to get help for. You can if the insurance doesn't cover it, um, doctors aren't in network. Um, it's horrible, and you can't afford to pay the out of pocket price. The insurance only wants to pay for the generic of this, and there's not a generic. I mean, there's so many things. Tonight, I sat and watched a home. I mean, and it was up in flames, and it turned out it was a veteran, and he literally had been begging for help. And the finality of that was he said, send somebody to help me or I'm going to burn down my house. Well, guess what happened? He burnt down his house and he died in the house. They found his body in the house. Um, we've got to do better. When are we going to start focusing on our citizens? I mean, I am all for making the United States the best country in the world and ridding it of any person who is here with any type of evil intent, whether it be against adults, against children, anyone, doing what we can to get them off the streets. Okay, I am all for it. However, we have got to start directing more funds to mental health. Now, I know that there are some of you out there that know exactly what I'm talking about because either you suffer from it or you have a family member who does. I suffer from it. I have been myself in a situation where, during COVID, I lost my job, I lost my insurance, and also my care provider, my primary care physician, who had been taking care of me for years, including treating me for my depression and anxiety and PTSD. Um, he The only insurance that I could get on because I had lost my job was Medicaid, and that was because I had a small child. Okay, well, he didn't take Medicaid. And funny thing, during that pandemic, his cash price for customers who didn't have insurance was $35. Once all this happened, his cash price went from $35 a visit to $145 a visit. Okay, not to mention, there's so much of a stigma. A lot of people, myself included, are part of families that do not believe that mental illness is a thing. They think that it's just being lazy and weak, and there's nothing wrong with you, and you've just got to put on your big girl panties and blah blah blah. And that's why I have people that I only have the only part of my family I have left, besides my children. I have two brothers, and I don't talk to either one of them. My children wouldn't know them if they walked up on them on the street. Um, And that's not due to any of my, I didn't do anything to cause that. I didn't. Um, but unfortunately, there are a lot of us out there that deal with that. That's the stigma of mental health. We've got to make it easily available for people to get the mental health care that they need. Now, we see all these cute little commercials on TV and on YouTube for betterhelp.com and all this stuff, right? Okay, and sure, if your insurance covers it, great. Or if you have the cash amount to pay the $150, great. But if you actually have, actual things that you like, anxiety disorders, that they can't medicate you, and some of them can't even give you antidepressants, anything like that. And so, convenient for those who have the money or those who have good insurance. For the rest of us, oh well, sorry. This is something that we've got. I don't care what it takes. I mean, like I said, mouths being closed doesn't make change. We've got to start hammering all of this money that keeps being spent on other things. We need it to go toward mental health care, because I guarantee you, had that veteran, we're still getting details on that too. The details, that we had were that he had called and basically told, because the VA had basically kicked him to the curb. Um, he had called and told them, if you don't, if send somebody to help me, or I'm setting my house on fire, and nobody came to help him. And he did that, and he could have hurt many people because that blaze was a big one. But there's no reason for him to have felt that way. We have a lot of war veterans right here, right now. We've had a lot of combat, a lot of on the ground combat over the last couple of generations. So we have a lot of veterans out there. Veterans, a lot of people will say veterans and you think of an old person. No, I mean, a veteran doesn't have to be an old person. We have got to get some of this money coming back because, like I said, mental health, one of our biggest problems, and it's the hardest thing to get help for. The hardest thing to get help for. So, anybody got any ideas on that? Please put them in the comments. Let's start conversations about this, please. I mean, because we just have to. We have to. Um, Man, yeah. I would like to hopefully, like, one day this week, do an uplifting video about something, or we're getting into spooky season. And I will say that today I did purchase some spooky season decorations. My skull, and my skull's name is Amy Brownhouse. Amy Brownhouse, after Amy Winehouse. And my skull, she has a long black wig and everything. And so, we've had to, her wig, her wig's just about as bad as Amy Winehouse's wig was. So we've been having to work with it a little bit. But, yeah. So, let's just, we all have to be proactive in something. And I just hope that, if, like I said, if you're listening to this, if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, because we would love to have you in our community. Please hit the like button. That helps us get out into the algorithm so that we can have more people that will be able to listen in and give us their 2 cents. Um, but yeah, I mean, we've got to help each other. I mean, we right now, especially, we're in this midst of, well, you can't trust this person, you can't trust that person. Okay, we've got to start looking at each other again as citizens. I mean, yeah, it's like I said, I'm all about, us being safe and being the best country that we can be, but we can't be the best country that we can be if a lot of us have mental health issues that are going untreated for reasons that should not exist. Okay? And that's just the way it is. Some things will never change. All right, guys. So, I hope I've given you some food for thought tonight. I'll probably be back on tomorrow with some more, I'm sure. It just kind of goes that way here lately. Um, but yeah, let's we'll keep apprised on the KarenRead stuff. Um, I kind of wanted to make a bet as far as how quickly the O'Keefe's attorney would hand in his notice to withdraw. Something else that we're waiting up on is we're waiting for the judge's written response in the final trial for the Sarah Boone, Brian Boone family court case. So hopefully that'll be coming soon as well. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go for now, and y'all have a good night. Y'all, please have fun out there. Please, please be safe however you can. And always know that you are loved. And I love you guys. Bye.